Welcome to Mooreology³, where three sisters discuss their unique perspectives on a topic. If you are a returning listener or a new one, thank you for being here with us. We would greatly appreciate if you would hit that button to like, share, or subscribe. Now to our conversation. We ready? All right,
As
here we
ready
go.
as we're going to be.
All right, welcome back to Mooreology³. This is a conversation between three sisters, Jennifer, Stephanie, and Sidney Angela, talking about different various topics. And this week, one of the things that we wanted to talk about was some of the new cancer treatments that are out there. So I want to just kind of give a little background because I feel like pretty much everybody, probably including the people who listen to this and the three of us, we have been touched by cancer. Cancer is one of those things where I'm not sure many families can get away from not having somebody that they know that has had it or died from it, or some people who have had it and recovered and then got another type of cancer or got the same kind of cancer and died from it and things like that. So, just a little background. Both of our parents had cancer. Our mother had small cell in her lungs and um, actually survived it, which is amazing because after more research, I realized easily, how many people die from it. It's like, um, do we need to start over? Go get the person at your front door, Sidney Angela.
It's stupid ass bullshit. I'm sorry. Is he gonna
All
walk
right,
away?
I
I know
start
he can
over.
see me sitting here, but I'm like, I am not fucking getting up, dude. This is why I don't like to sit in my fucking front room because there's always some random ass fucking person coming here
All
Take,
right,
wanting
take
take
something.
two.
two.
Take
Yeah, I
two.
apologize, but I'm like, is he gonna go away? Is he gonna?
I thought maybe
I
you
mean,
wanted
I'm
to
sitting
go.
here with the computer and earphones on.
No.
I was
A-
hoping that he would get
Stephanie,
the picture.
Angie doesn't talk. Angie doesn't open her door
No, I
for
ignore
anyone.
fucking I don't come to the
She
front door.
she actually
I'll look and
stays in the
see
back.
if it's my neighbor, I'll come up here.
Yeah, she
If it's
stays in the
somebody
back.
I've been expecting, I will come up here, but I'm not answering door to this is somebody who's trying to fucking I need to put a no solicitation so they'll stay the fuck away. No, I don't want I don't know, he's wearing a blue shirt. I don't know what he is, but it's not what
Okay.
I want.
All
Hard to
right,
tell.
take two.
Sorry.
Take
I
two. Get
apologize,
started
but I was
again.
like, hopefully he'll go away before the dog sees him. Starts because she was barking, but then I thought, oh, if she sees him, she's gonna go crazy. Oh,
Ballistic. I didn't even hear it. That's crazy.
I didn't even
he
hear it
rang the
either.
doorbell. Well, thank goodness.
Did she
Well, she was in
bark?
the other room, but she heard the doorbell.
Did she bark?
She did. She did
We didn't
bark.
We
hear.
didn't
But
even
I
hear
was
her.
worried if she came in here, which she hadn't yet. He did finally walk away. But I think he could
All
see
right.
I was on the computer because I'm like, not looking, not gonna go to that door.
All right, we ready?
All right. Sorry.
Yep.
Apologies.
Take two. Take two. All right, welcome back to Mooreology³, where three sisters come together to talk about various topics and getting into a discussion about these topics from three different perspectives. Today, one of the things that we wanted to talk about is cancer treatments and particularly some of the newer cancer treatments. First off, what I want to say is a couple things. First, please, 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 if you have cancer or you think you have cancer, um, please go to your doctor, go to your oncologist. They are the professionals. They know some of the most recent research. We're just giving you some ideas of some of the things that we think is really interesting that are emerging in cancer treatments. So this is by far, we are not giving you any medical advice whatsoever. So take it as you will. This is a conversation about it. Cancer is one of those things that I feel like most families have been touched by, and probably our viewers have been touched by it too. For us personally, as sisters, we had both our mom and our dad who had cancer, and our mother had small cell, which was super serious. I didn't really realize it at the time how serious it was until after the fact and realized that 96% of people die from small cell lung cancer. She actually survived that, and we were able to have her for 5 more years, in which case she got cancer again and she passed away. Our father had cancer, but he had prostate cancer, which is a very slow moving cancer. But he, like many people that are older, believe that there's only one way to cure cancer, which is radiation and chemotherapy. And it took the three of us a lot of conversations and a lot of research to really convince him to go and talk to somebody, in which case he had a whole different type of treatment that was not either one of those that actually helped him to be able to live longer. And he too passed. So this is a topic that the three of us are very interested in because there's so many really interesting things that are happening medically with the research that's out there, with all the new kind of treatments and that sort of thing. But I want to kind of go back a little bit because I think one of the things that we need to talk about is the understanding of we have precancerous cells or mutated cells in our body every single day. Most people may not know that, but we do. But what ends up happening is these single DNA mutations, there's our bodies are miraculous and they do these wonderful things. And here's something that I think that I found very interesting, that these what they call precancerous cells that are in our body daily, there are three ways that our body actually deals with it. The first one is where basically our cell will self-repair itself. And what it means is that we have internal enzymes that will fix that DNA typo that's there. The second one, which I kind of like, you know, and let me just preface this. I know cancer is a really serious topic, but in our family, all serious topics we laugh about because laughter is one of those things that is how we deal with a lot of those like really tough topics and tough times in our lives. But the second one is that does cellular suicide. And I was like, cellular suicide? But literally what that means is that the cell has decided that it cannot be fixed, it's too severe, and it has a self-destruct mechanism inside of it that makes it destroy itself. So it commits suicide, the cell does, which I was like, really? And then the last one is it's so bad that the cell basically it fails to do its job to commit suicide, and so the immune system has to get involved. So the cool thing is your immune system has two ways to handle it. The first one is they've got like these first responders who go out looking. They're constantly looking for these cells that don't look normal, and then they try to basically eliminate them and destroy them immediately. So, I mean, I could just imagine all these cells going around, the immune system going teet, 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 and sees like a cell that it thinks is weird looking and just destroys it. The next one is what they call the killer T cells. And these are what they call targeted assassins. And basically, what it does is that when it recognizes specific abnormal proteins that it thinks is mutated cells, it destroys it before it can multiply into a tumor. So these are kind of some of the different things about about cancer and how it happens and what our body does about it. The problem happens when our body does not destroy them, and this can happen in basically when the precancer cells escape or are not detected, and our immune system doesn't destroy them, and they become basically continuously multiplying themselves until they become either a tumor or something else that takes away from that. Anything you guys want to say about those things?
No, I mean, I don't think I have anything to say about it. Like, I guess the main thing is just remember this is kind of how your cells deal with things that are like that are set to become cancer, right? Because the cell
Yes,
gets triggered and basically
it
that's
mutates.
before it's really like yet quite a problem, right?
Yes,
And then it's after it's already taken over basically and beat your ability to stop it, right? Your body's ability to stop it. That's when typically it becomes a problem and cancer treatment needs to be considered, right? That's
And I
kind of
think
what
absolutely.
some
you're
of it too
saying.
is there's at least with the faster, like the small cell cancers, you're having so many cancer cells being created that your immune system's not able to be able to stop it. You know what I'm saying? It's too fast. It's producing so quickly that it's very difficult for your immune system to be able to put a stop to it. And then it
Right.
just gets worse and worse.
Which is
So
one of the
whereas that's,
things.
one of the reasons that it took so long, like with dad's, with his type of cancer, is because it's not producing quick enough. So your immune system's kind of in overdrive trying to handle it, but at the same point, there comes a point where it's wearing your immune system down.
Right. Which is what I think with mom, one of the reasons why hers came on so quickly is she had had surgery and got a severe, I would assume it was
It
a
was like
staph infection.
104-degree. She was like
Right.
had a very high fever.
Right. And it took many days for them to get it under control. And I think that's when her body couldn't fight the mutated cells in her lungs, which is what brought on, obviously, the small cell uh,
You mean the large
cancer that
cell.
she had. She had small cell first.
Right, but the second time was,
The
are you
second
talking
time
about the
she had
first
large.
time?
I'm talking
Right.
about the first time, yeah, because she got the small cell after she had the surgery and had the infection that she was in the hospital multiple days. So her
Okay.
immune system obviously couldn't deal
Yeah, I mean,
with
it was like
whatever's in
within
her.
a year. And you're
Yeah,
right, it's an extreme stressor to your body. Anytime you have an extreme stressor like that, it could switch on some kind of autoimmune issue. It could, you know, cause something like cancer to start developing. It's
yep,
like basically a mutation in your body that your body is not capable of getting rid of.
yep. And then you have to have different types of things that you do in order to handle it. And the interesting thing is obviously, chemotherapy and radiation has been something that has been used since the 1980s. Um, and but since the 1980s and up to the present day, there has been a multitude of different other treatments that are starting to be used for different types of cancers. So I'm going to talk about the one I want to talk about. I know Angie has one she really wants to talk about because there's been a lot of
Can, can I just add,
exposure to
like,
this. Yes, absolutely.
like if you're doing a medical intervention, right? So they kind of medical interventions for cancer kind of break out into different groupings, right? You have immunotherapy, right? You have
Correct.
surgery where they remove things.
Right.
And then you
Hmm.
have targeted therapies like chemotherapy and radiation.
Right.
So, you know, there's different, and obviously, depending on what type of cancer you have, some are more effective than others. Um, and some are more likely to cause problems than the others.
Right.
So just remember that kind
I
of
think
breaks
we
into
all
that.
know that chemotherapy and radiation can be extremely difficult on your body. I mean, we've seen it with our own family members that have gone through that. We have a family member right now going through this. So
Yeah.
Right.
we are very aware of how difficult going through those processes are. I mean, obviously, with our mom, and she did other things, not just the chemotherapy, and then she had brain radiation. um and so, because they were concerned about it going into her brain, so
Yeah.
she did a lot of like herbs and a very specific diet. So she did some other things. And I think that's another realm that, doesn't get a lot of discussion or wasn't on your list, Jen, is using, and I'm not by any means saying this
Homeopathic.
is, the only thing. You should be attacking this in all ways that possible. But yes, something homeopathic, such as
Well,
Right.
herbs and
dietary.
a
Yeah.
dietary,
But
to help you.
that wasn't like the things I described were medical interventions.
Right. But
And
Right.
still, I mean, it's still
technically,
an
what you
intervention.
eat and things like that, that's a different kind of intervention.
Right. I mean, I know soy, especially with certain types of cancers, have been shown to be helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's other, I mean, I
Well,
know the
limiting
things,
your
I'm not going to go into
sugar
the
and
things that
yeah.
mom was doing, but she was doing specific types of herbs. And then she had a very strict diet and she really stuck to that diet for quite some time.
Yes, she
Um, you
did.
know,
Well,
so,
I
and I
mean,
think
there's things
those
like
things helped her
proteins,
as
right?
well.
Proteins feed the cancer, so you have to make sure you're getting the
Yeah.
right kind of proteins. And I mean, there's a lot to it when you start talking about like how to um, help support other treatments
Right.
through things that you put in your body,
Correct.
Well,
like
and
eating.
here's what's interesting is that when I went with mom to the appointment when she saw the oncologist, when she had small cell, she talked to him about the foods and that sort of thing, and that's one of the things that you need to talk to your doctor about. But she specifically asked him, she's like, I want to go on this very strict diet. These are the things I want to eat, and these are the things I want to eliminate from my diet. And like sugar
Yeah.
and meat proteins, she was going to eliminate all meat proteins, um, and things like that, and go in. Basically, she pretty much was trying to go on more of a vegan type diet
Right.
and ate a lot of juiced celery and a lot of green stuff that had,
A
you
lot
know,
of like lentils, beans,
yep,
things like that.
and
Nothing processed.
nothing
Um,
microwaved, nothing. There was like very, and so
Everything either in glass or fresh.
right. And so the oncologist, when we talked to the oncologist about that, he was very much on board with it because he said, "Oh, that sounds a lot like, the diet I already eat. And anytime you can eat healthier, it's going to make your body a healthier body," is
Right.
what he said.
Well, it's going
And
to help
so,
your immune system because your immune system is still working. Even when they're adding these treatments, you're still trying to help your immune system in this process too.
right.
Well, and
So,
I think like one of the things that, so one of the articles I read um, from the American Association of Cancer Research annual
mhm.
meeting is that today, right, the focus on cancer is more than just directed at like a group or collection of like tumor cells, right, that are cancerous. Now they treat it more like a complex ecosystem. So they're looking at like your immune cells, the surrounding tissue, your your microbiome, your metabolics, and how all these things are interacting with those cells. So it definitely, since she was being treated, I feel like like the treatment options now are a lot larger and they're looking at it in a very different way,
I would
right?
I think
agree.
so
I would
too. I'd
agree.
agree.
I mean, again, that was she passed away in 2012. So it's been, 14 years ago. And our dad passed away in 2020. Again, I think he would have probably lived longer. There was like a medical situation that took place and that really harmed him considerably. That has nothing to do with his cancer. But needless to say, I mean, I think he would have probably lived quite a bit longer too. Maybe I would say maybe another year, depending on how things went with the other issues he was having.
Well,
But
he was
Yeah.
just more
say,
stubborn than she was.
looking at this holistically, and not just one thing, uh, I think is becoming more the norm when you're going into these situations, and looking at all things, within your body and what you're doing to what you're putting in your body.
Well,
And I think
and I
it's
would
more
just
interesting.
say, right. And I would just say the other thing is like to kind of lay the groundwork for Stephanie, for you to talk about your article is like there are all kinds of new things that they're looking at in order to treat that. And again, because they're looking at it in a more holistic way, not just a tumor, right? So, they're looking at, how do you use, like your immunity and doing immunotherapy.
The
They're
article
looking
I
at,
have is very much in relation to that.
yeah, like, how do you empower your CAR T cells, right? And all these different things. And so like gene editing and how to use AI. And I mean, there's just so many different ways to
I think
attack
what was
it.
the other RNA? I think is
RNA.
another.
RNA is another one that's a big thing that's coming out as a way to try to treat cancer, and so they're trying to address it, and lots of things are coming out. And so I think this is a really interesting time to be actually talking about it. So the mRNA-based therapies, those are like vaccines for
Right.
cancer.
Yes, which is really fascinating to me. So I
Hmm.
have that one up. Do you want me to pull that one up for you? The one
Well,
that you had, Jen? Or
why don't
do
you
mine
talk?
first? Okay.
You
Okay.
could do that. Do you want to talk about your article first, though? I think
Yes.
maybe go there because
I'll go
mine is
there
a
first.
broad. My article is a very broad,
Yeah.
like view of what is happening today.
Okay.
Okay. So here's my article.
It's coming.
Angie, do you see it yet? Because I don't see it yet.
Not yet. It's coming, I'm sure.
Yeah. I just wanted to have Stephanie pause till it
Do you
comes up.
see it?
No, not
No,
yet.
no,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
stopped maybe.
Let me
Jennifer,
try again. Let me try again. Here we go. Share. It likes to do what it likes to do. I just want this one. Yes. Share that.
Nope.
I'm coming. Give me a second. It's here. It is this one. It's asking me which one I want
There it
to do.
is.
It's actually asking me which one I want to do today. Woo! It's getting there. Um, so here's the thing. I was fascinated by this article because this researcher, Zinzu, she and some other researchers at the University of Michigan are using a very specific tumor destroying, and they call it histotripsy. And it's a fancy word. Histotripsy, what it really is they are taking and using ultrasounds. And they're very targeted ultrasounds that target a tumor. And what happens is when they actually pulse these sound waves into the actual tumor, it's creating these like tiny bubble clouds inside of the tumor that they repeat and it kind of grows and then they start basically popping these little bubbles inside of it and it breaks up and collapses the tumor. And then the body, when it does it, what they found so far in their research is that the body, uh, its immune system realizes that something weird is going on, which is what we talked about. Your immune system kicks in when it thinks that it's something that shouldn't be there. And it comes in and it basically gets rid of it. And the great, I mean, I guess for me, I'm just like fascinated by this because it's sound waves basically. So they're targeting it with sound waves to make these bubbles to basically make it like blow up and get rid of itself. And they don't have to do surgery and they don't have to cut on you and they don't have to do any radiation. They don't have to do any. So I'm finding this targeted like way of treatment very interesting with the cancer. Now, it is FDA approved already for
So what's it
liver,
approved for, Steph?
liver
What has it been
cancer,
approved for?
Yeah.
So
liver
So,
just
cancer
liver cancer?
right
right. So
now.
if you think about like those groups that we kind of talked about, right? This would be something that would fall under surgery because typically you would go in and I actually, a friend of mine at work, her best friend, she has just had surgery to have like part of her liver removed because of cancer cells, right? And so this is a way to do something that's like surgery because you're destroying or taking it out, right? Without having to cut you open.
Which would be great because every time you have to be cut open, that's not a good choice either.
No, and
Yes.
that's the thing. This particular treatment is very promising in the idea that they would not have to basically open you up. Now, um, I have a friend of mine who had uh basically uh uterine cancer. And when they did hers was large enough that they had to do radiation to get it smaller. And then after they did that, then they had to do chemotherapy and then they had to remove it. So it was a lot of things
Hmm.
that had to be do and it was devastating. I mean, literally my friend was like, I will if I get a cancer again, I am not doing that again. Absolutely not. It was
Which is how our
super
mother
hard.
felt too.
Yes. And so this is like obviously they're are actually taking and they're doing research to get an idea of whether this is going to work for some other ones because they're looking at pancreatic cancer, they're looking at breast cancer, they're looking at um, what other ones? Colon cancer, like the tumors.
Yeah.
So all
So
these
pretty
different.
much anything where they're treating it like they would treat it by removing something, right?
Right, exactly. And one of the things that I think is a little bit of a limitation on it, though, which I guess it'll be how can they make sure that they're using it because obviously with the liver cancer and things like that, it needs to be a tumor that they can easily target with the sound waves. So, I mean, but I mean, the idea that you could take a sound wave and cause such a disruption to a group of cells that are mutated and cancerous to get it to basically like just break it up is blowing my mind. I'm just gonna
Well,
tell you, blowing
and
my mind.
it's pretty interesting that they were able to take like ultrasounds because that's what they're using as an ultrasound. And by targeting and narrowing it and making it like a beam almost, right? That
Yes.
they can that it's takes this thing that helps us see things within our body and uses it as almost a weapon against cancer. So
Yes.
it's crazy that ultrasound can do that. And I mean, even like a when they she Dr. Shu or Professor Shu had this idea to begin with, people thought she was nuts. You know, they were like, you can't use that to do that, and she proved them wrong. So it's definitely, and they're looking at it for other things outside of cancer. Like, is there a way to use this to do like some other surgeries that you might have to have done? So you don't have to cut the body open. Because anytime you do that, you open yourself up to so much risk, with infection and things like that. And your body has to heal. And yeah.
It makes me wonder what other things like ultrasounds, pulsing ultrasound sound like this, waves, can be used for. Because obviously, if it's used for this kind of tumor, could it be used for other tumors besides just cancerous tumors? Just,
Well, I'm
Hmm.
but
sure
I
there's
mean,
a lot of
obviously more research.
questions too.
Yeah,
Is again no different than we talked about like the cosmic rays and radiation and things like that. I mean, obviously radiation isn't good for your body, but I don't know in terms of, because obviously sound waves, no different than radiation, are things. I don't know if sound waves, or sorry, the ultrasound waves are are safe. Do we know? I mean, how much of that has been done?
well,
And
I could say this. When I go to my chiropractor, they
Mhm.
do ultrasounds on like my muscles.
Yep, they use in the hospital, they use an ultrasound to find veins, like
Yep.
the
Well,
IV
I mean,
team uses
obviously,
it.
they do ultrasounds when you're pregnant. They do ultrasounds.
Hmm.
I mean, I've had various for my thyroid. They've done ultrasounds to look at it, and when they were messing with my gallbladder,
But it
they
makes you,
were
you're
looking at
right.
it.
It's I'm sure that they've looked at some of the efficacy of ultrasounds, but who knows how much they've really looked at it.
Right. Well, and the thing about this particular treatment, the histotripsy, is that unlike chemotherapy, chemotherapy affects your whole body. So it's going to target the whole body. It's not targeting one place. Radiation treatments can basically target an area, but the problem is it not only targets that area, it can target like tissue that is not non-cancerous tissue. This particular one, what they are seeing as of right now is that the histotripsy can actually target that just the tumor and leave all of the good tissue around it and cells totally alone and not mess with that. And that they're finding that there's few side effects and takes very little recovery time, which if you've ever had I like I'm kind of hoping that this can be they'll get this approved for breast cancer because obviously breast cancer is a huge um cancer that there are some males, but a lot of females get it. And could you imagine not having to have all of the surgery that they do and then the chemo and the radiation they do in order to get rid of the tumor in the breast? you
Yeah,
know, and that your downtime, because I just had my really good best friend from basically childhood, she had breast cancer and it
she have to
it
have a
was harsh.
Did she have a mastectomy?
I
Like
think she
she
did, and then
have
she
them
had him reconstructed.
reconstructed? Yeah,
Yeah. And I mean it's
it's a
months
lot.
and months and years. It's a lot. It's a lot on your body. It's a lot on, opening you up and taking things out and your body just I can only handle so much. But it's very non-invasive in its nature, which like I said, this is why I'm like super interested in this research because I just feel like, wow, we're finding something that is less um, uh, invasive that, we don't have to open people up and we don't have to basically poison the body, which is what chemotherapy does, and radiation. It poisons your body, you know?
Yeah,
And so
and,
that makes me happy. That makes me
yeah.
happy.
Well, and while those treatments, you know, they have gotten substantially better than they were even like 5 years ago, they're definitely more targeted than they used to be. They're still just so hard on you, you
Right.
know?
Right, right, right.
So,
You want me to talk a little bit about mine?
yeah.
Sure. We love
All
that.
right. Let me pull mine up really quick. Why isn't it showing my other one? Hold on.
So I might also, just like while you're pulling that up, Angie, I
Hmm.
would tell you, so they're estimating that in new cancer cases annually are expected to grow by 75% between 2022 and 2050. So I think this is
Yeah,
why, the topic in general, right, is a good topic, is a good topic because everybody can relate to it. I don't know anybody that doesn't know someone that's had cancer.
correct.
Absolutely.
Well, and you know what? Being the person who's likes history a lot, I really had to go back because I really wanted to know historically, is this because, in my mind, I keep thinking to myself, why does it feel like so many people have cancer now and today? Than in past years. You know, was did we just not have any cancer back then? But then what I found out is that by doing some research, what I found out is that um, cancer has been around or has been uh, diagnosed for quite a long time. They have research that's from like the even as far back as like the 1700s, talking about occupational links to cancer. So there was research going, and I say research, observations, obviously more so than anything else, where they really are starting. There were doctors who recognized even back then that, obviously certain exposures, like soot exposure, had a higher risk of skin cancer and, and different stuff like that. So it was interesting to go back and at least look at that because I was like, it just feels like there's so much more. And I think maybe it's just because we're more aware today than perhaps they were back then. And maybe there were just a lot of people that didn't have any idea of you know, what it was.
Well, you
Right.
didn't,
I think
you
so.
know, 50 years ago, you didn't treat it, you know? I mean, that's,
Right. You just, kept
just
doing what you
died,
were doing until you were too sick and then
you
you
know?
passed away over after so much time. I mean, they do what they can.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's just, and I mean, and I feel like that's part of it. Maybe you guys are right. Maybe it's just 50 years ago, there just wasn't a lot that they could do about it. And so a lot of people just basically dealt with it and died from it without being treated at all.
Yeah.
And
Right.
now we have so many treatments that, that can help. So what do you got there, Ange?
Okay, so actually I had a while ago watched this video. It's through News Nation, but it's called Killing Cancer: The Power Within. It was a video that I watched, but this is an article related to that video. So I just wanted to kind of talk some about it. So this particular doctor. His name is Dr. Patrick Soon-Chiong. He is working on immunotherapy cancer treatment. It's been this particular treatment has already been approved by FDA. It's called Anktiva or something like that. But it's only been approved specific, interesting, like with yours, for one specific thing, and that's for a form of bladder cancer. But he really feels that, you know, that it could help in many other cancers, but this is the only one that it's been approved for. He's a bit let down over the fact that the FDA did not approve it for others. He's someone who's been working on cancer treatment for a while. Obviously, he's done other things in his life, but his goal currently and in his life has been to cure cancer. So he just, has really been working on this. But let's talk a little bit about his actual.
Angie,
Yes.
real quick. So, in case people don't know what immunotherapy is, right? It's
Mhm.
as simple as you're training your body to
Right.
see the enemy hiding in plain sight,
Yep,
right?
I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk
Okay.
about that in just a second. I'm going to talk about what it is. Okay.
Okay.
So, because this is now like, how does this particular medication work and what's its efficacy? So, basically, this drug is a medication that supercharges like your own like internal like natural killer cells. So your immune system obviously is built to basically attack outside agents. So what this medication does is it actually attaches to those killer cells, and it like boosts it big time, so that when they go after it, I mean it like seriously erases. So basically, uh we as adults have around 2 billion of these cells in our blood. And obviously if you get sick, they're going to get activated, but this is going to actually increase the activation even more. So, like I said, it'll bind to these killer cells and make them stronger, make them able to like multiply faster. Sorry about my dog. She's
But you know what?
excited.
That's what we were talking about earlier. Remember, I told you when we were talking earlier about
Right,
how our immune system hunts down the abnormal
right,
cells, and that's what
mhm,
he's talking about is the natural killer cells and
right.
the killer T cells, which are the targeted assassins. That's what
Right. So
how
this delivers this particular protein. It's called IL 15. And basically, when that binds, it activates them. So they may not even know there's an issue going on. So by this binding to them, it says, hey, there's a problem and you need to go get it, and it
right.
boosts them, it multiplies them. It makes them, instead of just being a regular soldier out doing its job, to like, some incredible soldier. So basically, he's found that there's been about, let's see, I'm trying to think. Let's see, what did he say? Oh, there's about 1,000 patients that have been treated successfully with this. Um, Even those that maybe they had tried other treatments that didn't work. Most of the patients with bladder cancer have lived like more than 10 years. Um, uh, Even metastatic cancer patients surviving even 6 years in complete remission with many different cancer types. But for some reason, the FDA only gave them approval for bladder cancer. And I mean, I think he was really disappointed. He says, and it's quoted in this, basically, he almost fell out of his chair because, he has randomized trial where he has a patient that, and many patients that lived even 10 years. So he was
Wow.
kind of, really upset that they did not approve it for more cancers than just that specific bladder cancer. But so this is one that is out there, and he's hoping that by getting more people to know about it, that basically, there'll be more review by our FDA to open this up to more people having the availability of it. But the cool thing is it's your body doing the job. You're not having to do things like radiation and chemotherapy that are really hard on your body.
Well,
So,
and that's the cool thing about obviously both these treatments that we're talking about is
right.
they are ones where obviously it's targeting to get your body to do things in order to basically get rid of the abnormal cells that are already there without having to do all that. And so the hope is that the FDA will approve some of these things, obviously with some more research. But the other part is that could you imagine? I mean, here's two different options that don't require any like major surgeries or chemo or radiation. And the hope is that eventually we'll get rid of cancer the way that we've gotten rid of so many other things that we do not have in our society that were a major problem, like polio. Polio was a major problem in the early turn of the century of the 1900s. And today people don't get polio. Why?
Right.
Because there it was a vaccine that was made that got rid of it. And
Right.
so that's the thing. I mean, if these different people are coming up with ways to eradicate it, like what he's talking about obviously is a little bit more of like a vaccine of some sort that gets your body to basically
Right. Well, you're
No,
putting
it's not a
this
vaccine.
protein in your
Yeah.
body, the
okay,
IL-15 protein in your body, which basically is supercharging your killer immune cells. And
Yeah,
you
it's a
know,
form of like CAR T cell therapy, right?
mhm,
And so
okay,
it's basically putting a protein, which Angie's talking about, right? It connects a protein to your T cell, and that protein helps teach or helps the T cell kill the specific cancer virus.
I mean, and currently, like I said, it's only been approved for one or a very specific form of bladder cancer. Um, but obviously, it's a process to get all of these treatments approved by our FDA. And so, when there's and again, as we know, in a capitalistic country, there's a lot of vying for who gets approved for things, because we have various companies who want their medications. It's sad to say that sometimes things are held back for various reasons, sometimes good reasons. Obviously there's medications that are, slide through that aren't good, and others that aren't going through even though they could be really good. You know, there's a lot of, red tape with FDA. So I mean, I think this is something that is important, that, people take the time to really look into their treatment options. Now, he does have a small research facility that he works out of, because this is not a poor person. He is a billionaire, and he owns part of the Lakers. He's actually one of the people that own part of the Lakers too. You know, he does feel strongly about this medication, and that it would be very helpful for people. And I'm hoping that, we don't have high people that are in some of these organizations, whether it's like the FDA or whichever one, that are holding up, answers, to people's prayers because of affiliations and things like that. But needless to say, he is treating people. They obviously have to pay out of pocket for their treatments, but he has shown that people are living 10 years and beyond after getting this treatment with, the people that he has worked with. But hopefully it'll be open to more types of cancer in the near future.
that would be good because I feel like some of these newer ones, I know that they need to do clinical trials, and I understand why the FDA, doesn't want to give free um, carte blanche for them to just go out and do whatever. Obviously the FDA was created in order to protect people, but sometimes we have to ask ourselves, you know, is it protecting people really, or is it uh, closing the door on some things that could potentially help people, especially if they are in a predicament where the cancer type that they have, they're going to die from it anyways. Like,
Yeah,
Well,
while other companies are working towards a treatment so that way that they can get that out before this person's approved. And
so
that's some of my concern about some of the things that are, that are out there, that people aren't, it's
well,
not accessible.
let me just say that one of the things to keep in mind, and I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but there is a legal pathway to access unapproved or under investigation medications, right? So they're in the process of being approved. So it's called the Expanded Access Compassionate User. Okay.
Mhm.
Or no, the bill is called Right to Try Act.
oh, is there one
Okay.
in
Is
there
that
right
like
now?
in a
No,
bill that's current?
it's actually passed. It's out there. So it's the Right to Try Act. This legislation, federal legislation, allows eligible terminally ill patients who have exhausted all approved treatment options and cannot participate in a clinical trial to access certain unapproved investigation, well, drugs that are being like researched, right?
Right.
Right.
It basically allows them to have access legally to that. So there's also
Okay.
the expanded access is another one.
Okay.
There's several laws out there that are specifically designed to try to make it easier for people to get access to things. There's
Okay,
also
but in that
off-level use,
bill, that doesn't
off-label
mean
use.
your insurance is going to cover it.
It definitely doesn't mean that,
That means you're
for
going to
sure.
have, like with his, you're going to have the money to pay for it. And these treatments are not, we're not talking like, 500 to
Right,
$1,000. We're talking much
right.
more expensive even than that.
I'm just saying that it's not necessarily legally forbidden to do it. And I'm sure that
Right.
people like him, that doctor and other doctors, one of the things it says is you need to consult with your doctor to apply for those type of
Right.
exceptions.
And I'm sure those are the patients that he has, is people that
Mhm.
have done what they could and now, you know,
Or they got into his trials. That, I
well, and
mean,
again, you
trials
know,
are a big
there
thing, right?
it's not like he's taken on anybody and everybody, okay? I don't want people to get that idea. No, they have to go through a process to even be allowed into as considered research,
Hmm.
because it's still research, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Right now, because it hasn't been approved for anything outside of that specific type of bladder cancer. But I thought it was when I watched the video, and this has been probably a couple months ago that I watched this. I can't remember, maybe a month or two ago that I happened to watch this before I ever knew about we were going to be discussing this. But I was like, I just thought I hope that if it truly is something that can be helpful, that it gets available to those people who need it
Yeah.
sooner
That's
rather
the big
than
thing.
later.
I agree.
Right. Because I mean, obviously, some people are on a very limited time,
Exactly.
you know, um, and that sort of stuff. But the hope is that, like you said, that some of these different ones that are out there will be available. And the other part is not only available, but where people can afford it. Because
That
that,
that's another part, that insurance is going to cover it and that people can afford the cost. Because I mean, I think that's something else in our country that's very difficult. I mean, I look at, I mean, myself, and I don't have crazy things by any means, but I mean, I'm making a payment every month because I cannot pay out the costs. And I can't even imagine with something like that, that's, you know, I have kind of middle level, I would say, insurance. It's not the best, you know, it's kind of middle level. And, I pay quite, I mean, I'm not saying that the insurance doesn't pick up costs, but I pay quite a bit myself. And, and it can quickly catch up. And that's not helpful for people either. If you're already sick, you don't need a bunch of stress on, you just added 20, 50, $100,000 in debt to yourself or your family.
Yeah. Well, hopefully these get even more research done and they get approved and it becomes available because I feel like some of these are very, especially like the one that you were talking about, Angie, you know, obviously it's something that you can easily take and it's in a shot form and do you know what I mean?
Right.
Is it in a shot form, Angie?
Yeah,
How is
it's in
it?
a shot. You get a shot.
Kind of
Okay.
like what Dad did with the hormone therapy that he did, where
Yeah.
they just gave him a shot. And the thing is it's that's what we some of the stuff because I mean obviously the just to have a shot of something that makes your body even better than and to attack these things is amazing and that
Right.
sort of stuff.
I mean, I would
Um,
assume if you're going to pump up your immune system like that, that you might be somewhat tired. When your body, think of when you're sick and your immune system's trying to rid your body of just a regular virus or even a more difficult virus like COVID. I mean, that's part of the reason you're exhausted is because your immune system is in overdrive and it will make you tired, but at the same point, it's probably better than having to go through and poison your body.
right. And that's the
Again,
thing.
there's still research going on, like yours. It's been approved for a very specific type of
And they're
cancer.
trying and they're trying to do some other ones too, do you know what I mean? But
Hmm.
again, Jennifer, here was the
Takes a
article that
lot of
you brought
time.
up,
Yeah.
Is this
which
the one
was the
Jen had?
10, yeah, this is the one Jen had with the 10 related breakthroughs that give hope in 2026. That's the article you were talking about, Jen.
That's
And
one of them. Yeah.
yeah,
It,
crazily as I kind of went through that and looked at it, the one thing that stood out to me is a lot of it is talking about the immunotherapies that are on the verge.
Right.
yeah. Does that one talk about, because I looked at a couple of them, does this one talk about the CRISPR and gene editing?
Protein degraders, early detection, health and wellness, artificial intelligence, next gene cell therapy, which is what we were talking about. I don't think so.
Well, let me just say, rather than go there, there are a couple things I thought were really interesting, and I'm
Mhm.
looking at a slightly different article, but the AI. I think that because we were talking about AI and what can it do and things like that. The
Right,
AI is, I mean, they think this is going to be like a huge launch pad to really begin to truly understand all the components that lead to cancer,
Mhm.
right? And so right now in India, like they have the World Economic Forum is partnering uh, to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to kind of transform cancer care, right? And so it's doing like AI risk based profiling to try to identify like common things in breast cancer. And I will say, so India happens to be one of those places that, for better or worse, like you don't have a lot of rights to your personal information. Like they were one of the first countries that used biometrics for their welfare system. So you have to, yeah, they scan your image in order to determine if you are the right person to receive benefits. And all of that is, yeah, it's really interesting. But nonetheless, because of that, I think it's really interesting that they're really trying to use that as a way to do early diagnosis in India, so that they can try to treat people earlier. Beyond that, I mean, obviously X-rays is one of those places where AI has been really big, and like, because you have large, huge sets of data from X-rays to help teach AI like what to look for, and they're actually able to, use it to find things that on images that the regular eye, like the human eye, can't see, which is improving like detection of it. So it's definitely interesting, like the things that they're doing with AI. Just, even understanding like and taking like all the genome projects that have gone on, so that they can sort of begin to try to find more ways to identify when cancer related combinations of genes.
Right. And well, I mean, we already know that for some people, they're more likely to have a certain type of breast cancer because they have certain backgrounds. I mean, I know myself, because of our heritage, that, I've been tested just to see if I carry that gene, which I don't, fortunately, um, you know, but because of our heritage, there's a high likelihood that you could have a specific gene that could bring breast cancer on. So,
Well, that's going to be that.
all of those.
Well, the AI also, in your article, Jen, it was talking about the idea that AI will be able to assist the oncologist because, if you think about how many new researchers are coming out there and how many new ways to treat cancer. If you've been a doctor, say, for the past 30 years, how much has changed in 30 years since you've been in school?
Oh, I
And
bet. I
so,
bet.
and yeah, and so AI could help with you knowing some of the more recent advancements for your patients. As you input that information of what's there, it can help assist the doctor in looking at, oh, these are the things. Okay, so it says these are some of the new stuff that we can look at. In which case, I think that's going to give a lot of doctors some cutting edges. Now, I am not a proponent. I have Angie and I agree on this a lot. Obviously, the artificial intelligence stuff takes a lot of resources. This is one thing I would definitely agree that it would be a good benefit, but at the same point, we trying to balance that at the same point, and
Right.
that's in one of our previous conversations we had about AI. But I am very excited about what AI might bring to the health industry because
Well,
yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say that's one of the other big areas where there's a lot of focus is on using AI to find new ways and new compounds, right, that can treat cancer, right? It's
Right.
also like for clinical research, like analyzing the data that they collect in a clinical research. It's speeding up the time that it takes to do that because somebody doesn't have to actually look at it. The computer can look at it and deduce certain things from it. So, that, and, just the idea that it'll direct like your drug discovery,
Wow.
because there are these large data sets where they can like begin to pinpoint potential treatments. So instead of us just like, oh yeah, that looks like maybe it'd be a good idea and try it, spend some time researching it and find out that it's a total like drop dead bust, right?
Right.
This is a better way to target our research dollars so that, at least we have some data to say that this might be a good place to check. So I think that's sort of interesting too.
Well, I think with the AI too, as much as I, in certain ways, hope they find better ways to handle data centers, but I do feel that you could have a more like I guess direct connection to the person with AI because you could feed in you know their past history, what their blood type is, all these different things that could impact various types of treatments to find a very specific, treatment schedule or regimen for that particular person. So you could individualize it much
Well, that is
more,
true, which is going
you
to be
know,
super cool. You're
and
right. I
quickly.
didn't quite think of that.
How
Well,
you could so individualize with AI. I mean, I'm hoping that our country, as well as many other countries, can find better ways of navigating, AI, because I mean, we all know there's a lot of negative around AI. There's a lot of positive, there's a lot of negative, and how, you know, we can come to a consensus of the best way forward so that we can still get the good things from what AI can bring, especially to something, like this that's so important.
yeah. And like a couple other things from these articles that I think are sort of interesting is the concept of repurposing drugs, right? Um, Obviously, we live in the US, we're a rich country. Um, Even though there are like problems and sometimes you cannot get a treatment or you can't afford it or whatever, we can afford by far way more than someone in other some people in other countries, right? And so they're finding like it, like looking for drugs that have already been tested and are out there to use um, for cancer treatments. So similar to the way that like Ozempic, right, was developed for type 2 diabetes, but then they realized like how effective it is to help with, weight gain, right? So
Or
there
weight,
are all, yes, for
Weight
weight
loss.
loss. Yes.
not weight
So
gain.
weight gain. Yes. Sorry about that.
But and they've are already working on newer medications that are even better already.
Right. And
Yeah.
they have like there are drugs out there already that they've identified that that studies are showing could be could have anti-cancer properties, and they're going through peer review and things like that. So I mean, there's a lot of options out there that could potentially like help. So have you guys heard of metformin?
Yes,
No.
I have
Yeah, I
taken it.
figured you'd. Yeah. So one of the things that they are looking at is they're looking at that for breast cancer treatment.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
they
mean,
found that it disrupts cancer cells metabolism,
okay.
and it reduces estrogen levels, which lowers your breast cancer risk.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
Well, that's
I mean,
yeah,
that's
metformin is
very
specifically for people that have diabetes. If you don't know what metformin is, it's basically helps with blood sugar, regulating your blood sugar. It does have approval for a few other uses, not just diabetes, but that's its main use is for someone who's diabetic.
interesting.
yeah.
Well, and that is
But it's
that's
cheap. It's not
It
very
well,
is
expensive. It's
very
been
low
around for a long time.
cost.
well,
Right.
and that's the other part is some of these different, I mean, obviously there's some things that they're looking at and that's going to be some of the things that you're talking about. Obviously, if they're cheaper, that's going to be really helpful because then you can obviously it's at least an option. Whereas,
Yeah.
sometimes that the hopelessness comes when you feel that you can't afford any of these options
I
and
know.
that
I
you're
mean,
just
as
going to
somebody
die of
who
something
said
because
no to certain things. Like no, I'm not doing that because I'm not I don't need another $3,000 of debt.
right.
Yeah.
So,
And then I guess the last thing I'll say is that I found it interesting that they talk a lot about early detection. And you kind of think that, the doctor knows everything, but the doctor doesn't know everything. And we don't have all the tests that we need in order to figure it out. So here's a word that I didn't, I was like, what? So who knows what a liquid biopsy is?
A liquid biopsy. So would
Yeah,
that be one that they're going to go into something that has liquid possibly in it?
it does. It's a blood test.
Oh,
I
a
was like,
liquid
what? That's
biopsy
how
is
they
a
were.
blood test. Well, I've
That's
had
what
a
they
lot of
call.
those.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a lot of liquid
I was
biopsies.
like, a liquid biopsy.
But
What
I
is
bet there's
that?
more to it than,
Oh, I'm sure there
what's
is.
your is your iron levels at where they
Yes,
should be?
well, now I
because
knew that
these
they
are,
have tests. They have
yeah,
blood tests to test to see if you have cancer. And if
right.
you've
So
got like indicators, then that's when they want to do
Right.
more. But
Like
here's the
white
thing,
blood cell
I've
count,
never,
how
I've
much does
things
it
never heard
like
of
cost?
it
that.
called that. So I thought that was
I know.
interesting.
Well, I mean,
But
I guess part of it is I mean, how many people are I don't know. In my mind, how much does it cost to add that kind of a test if you know that you have cancer in your family? You know, could you have like a blood test done like every so many years to do early detection?
Yeah,
I
no
mean,
different than a
there,
well,
colonoscopy or
I
something.
I mean,
think
I
the
have blood
problem
tests
is
done at
you
least
would
once a
have to,
year.
Me
the
too.
test actually has to exist, and that's part of the problem, right? So
Right.
there's a big push apparently to refine and make these liquid biopsies more available so that it can detect cancer-related genetic mutations.
Mm.
Okay.
So,
So,
back to the biomarkers, right? Well, you have to identify them first, and then you have to have a test to look for them. And so they're continuing to really focus on and work on uh, trying to find those. And then there's also molecular profiling, which I was thinking of Katya when they were talking about this, because I was like, oh,
oh
this
yeah,
is really interesting.
it's the
So,
it's like the microcells. It's the
yes,
microcells that they're
Right.
looking at,
yes.
you
And so,
know. Well, and keep in mind too, we've talked about the idea that, even in these blood tests, let's just say they do get really pretty good at this. Keep in mind, one of the issues that has consistently come up with cancer is that they're able to cloak themselves. They're able to put an invisible
Hmm.
cloak over
mhm,
They look
themselves.
just like the other cells.
And that's been a really hard thing. This is part of the reason some of the some of the research and some of the treatments that we're talking about right now are so important is because these particular proteins and the, ultrasound type stuff is able to literally find those little cloaking, the ones that are got
Yeah.
their little invisibility cloaks on
Mhm.
to so
yep.
that they can detect it, you know? And if your body doesn't detect it, it's not going to do anything about it.
Right.
So that's why some of these different ones are
Well, I
so
don't even know that
important.
it's always that it doesn't detect it, but I think it's sometimes it
It
gets
can't
gets
tell
to
the
a point it
difference,
it
right?
it it gets overwhelmed too. It can
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
overwhelmed. That's why a lot of times it's like people's first indicators are I'm feeling really tired or I I'm just not able to do what I was doing. These kind of very, oh, what's the word?
Generic
Yeah, generic kind of
symptoms, right?
Well,
you
and I want
know?
to say, I mean, here's the thing, Angie. Um, I feel like if you think about this, like I think about my friend who had the cancer in her uterus. And one of the things that she kept saying is, I feel like, because she was always very fit, and like her stomach was always very
Mhm.
flat. And obviously, as you get older, things happen and things like that. And she kept saying to different friends and things like that, things like, well, I feel like I just like it's very poopy through there. And a lot of her friends like kind of kind of bypassed her in the sense of and put her off and oh, you're just, you're getting older, these things happen. You've got to,
Right. It wasn't that
um
at all.
no, and when she said something to me about it, one of the things I said, I was like, if you're that concerned, you need to listen to your intuition and go see the doctor.
Yeah, these generic or whatever you want to call them symptoms shouldn't be ignored. If it's
Don't
not
ignore.
normal, it's not normal. And you need
And
to
that,
go and,
yeah,
have a doctor that you trust. I mean, I'm very fortunate since I have chronic illness that I have a doctor that if I go in and I'm like, hey, this is going on. I mean, sometimes she's like, okay, you know, but I mean, because I've told her some very random things, but at the same point, she listens and she's like, we can try this or, why don't you go and see this person? And that's part of the reason I've tried metformin because I was having some issues and she was like, well, let's try this. It's not an expensive thing and, we can try it. It wasn't for me, but that's okay. You know, I
might be
mean,
for somebody else.
having a doctor that you feel comfortable that when something like that comes up and you're like, this is just weird, that, they have really great triage nurses at the place too that I go to for my doctor's office. That if I call and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on, there's been times where like, don't wait. You need to do something now,
Yeah.
Well,
or
and
you
and
can
I feel
wait.
like
We'll
mom,
get you in over here to to somebody.
well, and here's the thing. I think mom and dad both did the same thing. So with mom, and you would probably know more about this. She had a little cyst or like a tumor type thing on her hip that you could feel, and she went to go have that looked at and taken out. But she was
Right.
like, it's just like, something there, no big deal. And it was a big deal. That's when that was what indicated. Even the
Right.
doctor
And
didn't
I
think it was a
remember
big deal.
having me like check it. And I was like, Mom, you need to just go to a doctor and have them look at that because, you know, there's no
She
reason
used to
to
get like a
ignore
lot
it.
of, she used to get a lot of benign cysts, like
Well,
in general.
yeah. And I'm like that. I
So
think
that's why she
joyfully got
didn't
that from
like
her.
run to the doctor about it. But
But I go in and have my doctor like if there's one because I've been really since I had my son when I was like about 26 since I've had my son and maybe it's something hormonal. I mean they don't really know all the ins and outs of why people get cysts, but knowing, is it a cyst? Is it a tumor? Is it something else? I mean, those are things that you really shouldn't wait, and you should always have your doctor check them out. And I will say, my doctor has told me repeatedly, if it keeps growing and it gets more than something like, maybe, uh, you know, five
dime, size of
five
a dime.
centimeters, you need to come in immediately. If it's
Yep.
Yeah.
growing quickly and it's more than 5 centimeters. I mean, obviously, you need to, if you feel something is growing at a pretty quick pace, you need to be contacting your doctor and talking to them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't wait.
Don't
Well,
ignore it.
No.
Early detection is very important. Don't ignore it.
yes, it
If you start
is.
having symptoms that are unusual, then you know you need to be calling whoever your doctor's office. I will say for dad though, I can remember when he had that sinus infection and it was like crawling up his face, this giant
That was crazy.
thing, this giant, I don't even know, like hard bubble thing in his face that was going up his face, and it was like, dude, you like really need to go. It's time, man. Like that is some freaky stuff. Oh, sorry, my dog's
Yeah,
like
well,
crazy.
he's always been that way. And really, to be honest
It's a
with him,
generational thing too.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I
so too.
think so too. Well,
He
same. He put off his own cancer as well, and I think some of it was what mom was going through. But even after, I mean, he put it off for a while, even after that.
Well, he
You
thought it
know.
was so when he came down, because I remember because he came down and he thought it was a urine infection, a bladder
Yeah.
infection.
Well, you
He may
still
have
So,
got
said
to get
that.
those
He may
out.
have said that to you, but he knew from when mom was sick that he had prostate cancer. He just didn't, he just decided that he didn't want his prostate removed. And that was the only treatment,
yeah,
At that
you
well,
time.
know?
at that time, and obviously we
It
learned
wasn't,
through him
but
that there was more than that. And
yeah.
that's when he went to go get treatments when we were like, that's not the only treatment. You need to go check. You need to go see an
Yeah,
oncologist.
talk to
Hmm.
somebody. I mean, it
And
doesn't mean you have to do what they say.
he
You
didn't
don't
like the
have to accept
urologist.
it.
Do you remember
You
that? He
can
Yeah,
hated
always
the
well,
say
he
urologist.
no.
hated that urologist. He really
I'm
did.
like, go to a different urologist. You shouldn't go see
Go-
somebody and pay them a ton of money
Well,
when
and
That
here's
you
what you
they
don't
said
don't
too.
like.
take
Yes,
time
I
to
know.
talk
Because
to
I went and
you.
saw her too. She was like, God.
Something,
Not
right?
good. But
Yeah,
that's
she
the thing.
wasn't the best. I will say
Maybe
that.
good. Who knows? She just did not. She was like
She's no
speeding.
longer there. I will tell you that just because I still go to that place.
Yeah. But
So
Well,
just to wrap things up,
that's
um,
what we need to do.
yeah,
Wrap it up,
you're
Jen.
right.
Wrap
I
it
need to
up.
wrap it up, or we could keep talking.
one more interesting thing that is like getting a good momentum and focus on research is real-time monitoring for cancer. So like using like wearable biometric sensors and digital apps that track different things, as well as tracking side effects, right, and daily symptoms. So, I think that is like really like just goes to the personalization of treatment, right? And so these devices are automatically relaying your data to the oncology team so that they can, it will enable them to do more early intervention and, prevent severe complications, reduce the need for emergency rooms, which I think is sort of an interesting one. Again, I'm sure that the AI plays a big role in that, but because it's a lot of data.
Yeah, it is. So wrapping this up, obviously we've been having conversations about some of the newest treatments for cancer that are obviously coming out and how even today they are continuously giving us hope that there are less of evasive methods in handling cancer. And, you know, as more and more people are being diagnosed with cancer, it's important that we find ways to battle it and to help our bodies get rid of it and that sort of stuff. So, um, that's kind of what we were talking about. Any other final thoughts, ladies, that you want to put into place?
Just, to all those people that have had family members that have lost the battle, our hearts go out to you. And to those that are in the battle, may whatever your treatments are be helpful to you.
And produce positive impacts that help you be more healthy,
Yeah.
and outlive the cancer because I think that's what we all want in this world is a cancer-free world. and that sort of thing. So, um, thank you for listening. Please, hit that like button, hit the share button, share it with somebody else. Maybe it's a treatment that they need to hear about themselves, and leave us a comment. We are always looking for other topics that you might want us to have conversations about that are, dear to you. Uh, find some research for you if we can, and talk about it. So this is Mooreology³, all three sisters, telling you thanks for being here. We appreciate you. Um, and we hope that this has been another lively conversation about a topic, especially one that's dear to our heart. Signing off.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sign